Discussions ongoing. UK police charges former Petroleum Minister Alison Madueke with bribery. Probing me would be a contempt of court. Suspended Adamawa Rec tells NBA, and on the foreign scene, African Union suspends Niger over military coup. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The World News at 6 begins with the spokesperson of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council, Yunusa Tanko, saying the party is not considering a merger with other political parties. According to Tanko in an interview on Monday, although talks of a merger are out of the question, the Labour Party is not ruling out a working alliance with other political parties. This comes after a report claimed that Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Rabiu Kwankwaso of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, and Peter Obi of the Labour Party have begun discussions on the possibility of a merger. In the report, it was stated that the trio is considering the merger should the Presidential Tribunal declare a rerun or a fresh election. In response to this report, Atanko stated that the Labour Party is in contact with other political parties that share its views and added that the reported merger is out of the question. Tanko explained that even before the February 25 elections, there were discussions with political parties of like minds that believe in the ideology and principle of the Labour Party. Speaking further, he said most political parties that are progressively minded will not allow some particular situations to happen in Nigeria. The LP spokesperson, however, declined to provide information about the content or conclusion of discussions with other political groups. Meanwhile, the British police have charged the former Minister of Petroleum, Diezani Alison Madueke, with bribery offences. According to Reuters, UK police today said they suspected she had accepted bribes in return for awarding multi-million-pound oil and gas contracts. The 63-year-old ex-minister served during the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan from 2010 to 2015. She was also the president of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Speaking about the charges, Andy Kelly, the head of the National Crime Agency's International Corruption Unit, said Alison Madueke is suspected of abusing her power in Nigeria and of accepting financial rewards for awarding a multi-million-pound contract. He also explained that the charges are a milestone in what has been a thorough and complex international investigation. The NCA said Alison Madueke was accused of benefiting from at least £100,000 in cash, chauffeur-driven cars, flights on private jets, luxury holidays for her family, and the use of multiple London properties. Reuters also said the charges against her detail financial rewards, including furniture, renovation work, and staff for the properties, payment of private school fees, and gifts from high-end designer shops such as Cartier Jewelry and Louis Vuitton goods. Now joining me to discuss this and other issues on the World News at 6 this evening, we have Mr. Cyril Abako, a social and political affairs commentator. Good evening, Mr. Cyril. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure, Chama. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so dearly. I do appreciate your presence. Now, the World News this evening actually begins with, the Labour Party spokesperson in the general elections this year, that is Yunusa Tanko, saying that the party is not considering, a merger with other political parties. This was in response to a report that was stating that Obi Atiku of the PDP and Kwankwaso of the NNPP are in talks for a possible measure to run against the All Progressive Congress APC if the tribunal declares a rerun. But right now, the Labour Party is saying they are not considering this at all, but that discussions are ongoing. If there are not talks of a measure, then, what discussions are ongoing? Do we really see the Labour Party, I would say, as a force to contend with, whether they stand alone or if they merge with others? What really would be the best course of action for the party at this point?
Well, the spokesman of the party has been kind enough to tell us that now conversations are ongoing, and that indeed such conversations were ongoing even before the elections in February. The question is, did the Labour Party categorically say that they were having this sort of conversations that could tend towards an alliance or a unification of forces? We didn't hear that back then. So the fact that now they are even able to admit that could easily tell us that, yes, now there is a possibility of something coming out of it. As they say, there's no smoke without fire. The reality is that now they say measure is out of it. But you cannot rule out the possibility that change is possible. Change is the only constant thing, So today, it may just be to admit that there are discussions. And tomorrow, depending on what is put on the table, they could be amenable and could become pliant, to say that, okay, let's give a measure a try. So I can't rule anything out for now. For the mere fact that the spokesman has been authorized or has had the liberty to come out and tell us this, it means that something bigger than talks could emerge. And there is no other way, you want to get this done if it won't be a case of give and take. Call it an alliance, call it anything. It may not be a merger. A merger is a case in which three parties come together to say, as was the case in 2014 with the APC, we have some parties where AFDP and some other parties come to say, we are going to subsume our identity, our offices, our constitution, and everything under a new or existing platform. In that case, it became the APC. So, but even if it won't be a merger, there could be an alliance in which, like we had in the First Republic, where some parties come together to say, we are going to field a common candidate. So all our members are going to vote for this candidate. It happened between the PDP and the AD in 2003 also, when in the Southwest, PDP governor swept to power, while the AD, retained the legislative seats in the Senate and House of Reps. But then, now the important question for me, I think, would be that the Labour Party apparently is waking up to the reality of the political terrain in Nigeria. It is not a place where only the best thrive, if I can put that way. The rest also are looking for space. The fact is that in politics, you can't stand alone. You can't be an island. So somehow I think that they're beginning to come into the mainstream. For a party that was able to pull that much capital going into the elections, and then in post-election era, we had the scuffle between Lamidi Papa and Jude Abure, or Julius Abure. To think that the party is even still able to stand and to talk of having discussion with other parties, I think the Labour Party is beginning to wake up to reality, to know that in Nigerian politics, pragmatism is of the essence. But I just hope that whatever thoughts they're holding do not lead to an outright dilution or loss of their core values and identity. If they did that, then the very core of their standing, very based on which Nigerians have reposed confidence in them, may be lost. But for now, I think that it is not entirely bad to hear that they are having talks. In the days to come, hopefully we should be able to now see what talks those are being and where they are headed in reality.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abako. Quickly, let me head on to the next story. The UK police have charged former Petroleum Minister Diezani Alison Madueke with bribery offences. Now, the UK police said they suspected that she had accepted bribes in return for awarding multi-million pounds of oil and gas contracts. We do know that she served under the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan from 2010 to 2015 and was also the president of, OPEC as at that time. Now, in 2022, in October 2022, a Nigerian court had actually ordered the final seizure of 2 properties and cars owned by her. Now, and in March this year, the U.S. Justice Department recovered more than $53 million from, her company. Can we say this is the case, or this is finally the case in which, we can say justice will be done? Because even with all of these court cases against her, with all of these cases of, misuse of public funds, she, with all of the charges and everything, would say with everything that has been, I would say taken back even by the courts with all the declarations of the courts, she's still there. She's still yet not. We haven't actually come to a conclusion on the case of Diezani Alison Madueke to know how much we can get, or how much can be gotten, or how much was really squandered, if I may use that word, by her. Is this the case in which you can say justice will be served from the UK court?
Two things. Yes, so there are two issues at play here. One is the fact that these are allegations, but the reality is that unlike Nigeria, where they will arrest a so-called suspect who will turn out to be a victim, and then begin to shop for evidence, begin to look for witnesses, begin to investigate the case until they now find whatever it is they can use to prosecute the person. In the UK, you saw that what they've done is that they've taken their time. They've undertaken thorough investigations, and if the story I read is anything to go by, they are charging her with bribery. We are not seeing this 40-count charge, 30-count charge of frivolous, baseless, groundless, evidenceless charges. We are not seeing that. They are charging her with bribery, and it is the police that is doing this. The reason why you have to take the British system seriously is because these are people who take their time, do investigations, and their systems work, their institutions work. In Nigeria, there was a time the EFCC said they had 40 charges, 30 charges, dozen charges against James Ibori. They couldn't prove anything in court. But in the UK, 1, 2, 3 charges, and he was convicted. So in the case of Diezani, if indeed they have come out to say we've done our work and we are sure that this woman is alleged to have given bribes and stuff like that, you can take it to bed that when they go to court, it will be a case of evidence, it will be a case of facts, it will be a case of data and whatever it is to show and to prove that there's watertight case and that they didn't come to just spoil a name. The reality is that in Nigeria alone, for example, this matter about Diezani has been on for a long time. But our institutions, we are not willing to go to the heart of the matter. They were rather just trying to play around it. Going so low to people began to publish private, clothing in the name of things they got from there till today. Nigerians can't tell exactly what was the crime she committed in the manner of speaking. Of course, yes, there was, but people cannot clearly, because there was a time the EFC was even, the British people said, we're going to take her back to our country for trial. The EFC said they should not bring her back here, because they themselves are not sure what they are going to do. So what we can do is, as a country, we can learn from England's example and say, what can we take home from their approach to criminal justice? Where are we lacking, and what can we do to better our own system? That's one. Then number two, at least, perhaps now, Nigerians can be sure that this whole corruption saga that bogged her 10 as a petroleum minister between 2010, was it 11 and 15, can finally be put to rest. Because there have been a lot of names that have been mentioned, investigations in the US, investigations in Nigeria, investigations in the UK, but it appeared that for a long time it was a matter of accusing, denying, going to court, charging. But now there is a substantive case. There's a substantive matter to say this person is accused. We can accuse the person of so and so, so that a court of law can sit, weigh the evidence, look at the case, and then give judgment that will be in the interest of justice. That's my personal reading of what is going on. Hopefully on October 2, you see now we already know when she's going to go to court. On October 2, when she appears in court at Westminster Magistrates Court, she will take her plea, whatever it is, and then let's know where that's going. But we sort of know that from history, from the way the system operates and what we see with James Ibori, we can sort of just sit back and say, yes, something is going to come out of this. And that, I think, is the real hope of the common man, both in Nigeria and anywhere in the world. We are these sort of things have happened, and government and the home government are finding it difficult to prosecute and bring people to justice when they have put their hand to the public till and have taken monuments for hospitals, monuments for roads, monuments for housing, monuments for education, monuments for water, monuments for even electricity, and I've used it to do what? Holidays, buying jewelry, buying houses, buying cars, just living a lavish lifestyle of primitive accusation. Nigeria has had it for too long. Hopefully, this will also be an example that to deter those who are now coming into government and hoping that they can get away with it. They can't walk away with it anymore. Let Nigerians be hopeful that, what our own court cannot do, what our own system has failed to do, someone else will do it for us.
Thank you so dearly, Mr. Abako. Permit me one more minute before you go. Let me speak on the suspended Adamawa Rec, who is petitioning the NBA over their plans to investigate him, saying the matter is already sub judice. The matter is already pending before the Adamawa State High Court, and that the NBA has no right to take him before the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee. I'd like you to quickly speak on that before you go, sir.
Well, the NBA is it couldn't be higher than that. The NBA is a legal, is the apogee of Nigerian lawyers in a collective sense. So I'm wondering if they didn't know that this could be a ground that he could put up to challenge the invitation or their summons to address before the disciplinary committee. But that's even I think on the moral side of it. Chama, the sort of confidence and swashbuckling that this wreck, Mr. Harry has demonstrated makes me shudder and wonder whether Nigeria has laws and institutions and whether people have regard and respect for them. From the whole time when he made that inauspicious announcement to when he was invited and when we didn't see him again, he had gone missing. And when he came and boasted and said nothing could happen to him, and now there has been not a single iota or drop of remorse with this man. That, for me, I think is my main worry. Is it that, in his own opinion, he feels everything he has done has been right? In keeping with which law, please? Which law has he upheld? Which law has he kept? And where are those who are supporting him when he was making that announcement that Sunday morning? There was a police commissioner that stood beside him. Was he in cahoots with him? Nobody saying anything. Somehow, the man they turned him into a scapegoat, and even he too appears to be enjoying the dance of impunity, the dance of corruption, the dance of doing whatever it is he likes and believing that nothing will come out of it. I sincerely find it worrisome that we have come to this point where public officials can take the law into their hands, believing that nothing is going to happen to them. We need to find out who his backers and sponsors are, because the kind of braggadocio and confident grandstanding, really, the grandstanding is grandstanding the public. The grandstanding is showing, just show that he has seen the end from the beginning. I pray that, the law will take its course properly, and that they won't tell us that tomorrow that they didn't find enough evidence to put the matter to bed. I hope that we are able to find the courage and the substance and evidence to say what was wrong, and what is right.
Thank you so dearly, Mr. Abako, for joining me on the World News at 6 this evening. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure, thank you.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu's staunch supporters and All Progressives Congress APC chieftain, the ex-governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, and the former aviation minister, Chief Femi Fani-Kayode, are leading voices among the party faithfuls, cautioning against ECOWAS invasion of Niger Republic. This latest warning came after Niger Republic military coup plotters told the ECOWAS it has begun a 3-year transition plan to return the country to democratic rule, a decision that has been rejected by ECOWAS. Reacting to the Niger impasse, former governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, in a tweet warned that the war against Niger Republic is like taking up arms against one's brothers. The former governor is the latest APC member in the last presidential election who has publicly warned against engaging in military warfare with Niger. Earlier, former Minister of Aviation Fani-Kayode, in a recent essay titled "Beware of Coup Belt," believed that attacking Niger Republic would have dark consequences on the economy and security of Nigeria. He pleaded with President Tinubu to shun the idea of invading Niger, as it could plunge the entire Sahel region into a terrorist zone. In another development, the National Broadcasting Commission NBC has charged broadcast media comprising radio and television against the dissemination of fake news and information. This was as the new NBC Zonal Director for Lagos State, Mr. Raphael Akpan, explained that there is no reward for breaking the news. Therefore, broadcasters must ensure the circulation of factual news stories as opposed to propaganda. He lauded his predecessor, the ex-NBC Zonal Director Vincent Ogumike, and assured of NBC's fairness and justice, while urging broadcasters to comply with the provisions of the National Broadcasting Code. Let's take a listen to the NBC Zonal Director of Lagos State, Mr. Raphael Akpan, speaking earlier today.
Broadcasting is meant to educate, to inform, and of course to entertain. Now, we look at the quality of the program you presenting to the people. And again, we look at how factual are you. We look at how accurate you are. Particularly the news. News must be factual. You can't. Sometimes we hear someone say it was a fatal accident and nobody died. What kind of a story is that? When you say something is fatal and you are saying nobody died, it shows the understanding, the level of understanding of, should I say, is it the editor? Everybody put together that produce that news. So you should know what to do and what to say, because you are there to educate people. The listeners will want to take one or two things home as a form of education. You get it? Now, the National Broadcasting Commission, in the broadcast industry, we have a document called the Nigerian Broadcasting Code that spells out the minimum standard required by broadcasters to operate. Now, the onus is now on every broadcast station to have that document. Not only having them and shelving them, have them study and let the provisions of the document be your guide. Once you are guided by the provision of the code, you will hardly breach those provisions, and basically that's what NBC looks out for.
For my next question, I'd like to know, in this era of social media, there is a lot of misinformation going around. Sometimes you see news on social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook. They are, known for where they are more text-based platforms. Now we see many people sharing information, sharing news. They are trying to pass it off as factual. It's after the election. Tensions, we can say, are still a bit high. Nerves are still a bit raw, from the presidential election, general elections of this year. In this era, how can broadcast media and journalists and the people that run this media, how can we do better in getting our news right and factual, instead of trying to run to be the first to break this news and then it comes out as fake news?
Well, the last time I checked, nobody gives anybody trophy for breaking the news first. No, I think what the broadcasters need to do is to first have it in mind that nobody gives you credit or give you trophy for breaking news first. You have to take your time, know that whatever news you want to break is factual. Not at the end you come back apologizing. That your integrity will be at stake, So why will I have to rush to break a news when I can do several stories around that news if I'm not the one who break it first? So I can do several stories around it. I can do stories, bring people to analyze issues raised from that event. Now, where is the area of verification of facts? Yes, we're in the era of digital. We're in the digital world. A lot of things are happening. Digital materials are susceptible to manipulation. Anybody can do anything. Social media, you have people with dubious intents coming up, with stories that might not be true. So you, as a broadcaster, the onus is on you to ensure that you verify your facts. Go do fact checking. Check through. Ask your colleagues. Ask other people before you use. Once you are sure of what you want to tell the people, then you can go ahead. But what you are not sure of, then you have to stay away from it. Okay, there are several ways of, doing your fact checking, and it is very important, because now anything goes on with the advent of social media and other digital platforms. People can come up with different stories for different intents. So we have to do a lot of verification of your fact.
I want to know the new NBC director that is coming in. What are we to expect as broadcast stations? What are we to expect?
Well, my name is Raphael Akwan, like I said, and I said I am the zonal director. So you are talking to the new zonal director, NBC Lagos. My predecessor, Dr. Vincent Ogumike, has gone to Abuja. So what do you expect? Well, what has been on ground before? We have the code, which serves as our own guide and the guide of the broadcasters too. All what we need to do is to ensure that broadcasters comply with the provisions of the code. So if you ask me again, several times, million times, what is expected? What you should expect is that I will ensure that you follow the rules of the of the profession. So just.
You're still listening to the World News at 6 and Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Now, on the foreign scene, the African Union today said it has suspended Niger until civilian rule in the country is restored and would assess the implications of any armed intervention in the troubled Sahel nation. The Peace and Security Council requested the African Union Commission to undertake an assessment of the economic, social and security implications of deploying a standby force in the country and report back to the council. The bloc said following strong differences on the matter. Army officers had toppled President Mohamed Bazoum on July 26, prompting the West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS to threaten the use of force to reinstate the ousted president. ECOWAS agreed to activate a standby force as the last resort to restore democracy in Niger. The African Union last week held a meeting on the crisis against a backdrop of divergent views within the bloc over any military intervention. The coup has heightened international worries over the Sahel, which faces growing jihadist insurgencies linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. Niger is the fourth nation in West Africa since 2020 to suffer a coup, following Burkina Faso, Guinea and Mali. And that's it on the World News at 6. Just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories again. You heard that the Labour Party spokesperson has disclosed that the measure with other parties is out of the question, but discussions are ongoing. The UK police have charged the former Petroleum Minister Alison Madueke with bribery. Probing me would amount to contempt of court suspended Adamawa Rectors NBA, and on the foreign scene, the African Union has suspended Niger over the military coup in the country. And that is a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Ijeoma Innocent. Please follow our social media handles at VOP903FM. For coverage of your live events and brand news mentioned on our news bulletins, do send email to news@voiceofthepeople.ng. Good evening and thank you for listening.